kingdom. So we discussed in the last verse, in the last chapter, the extraordinary characteristics of the mode of composition of the work Ramayana. Now the extraordinary characteristics of the work itself will be narrated. A work is extraordinary when it is composed by a supremely trustworthy person. This is the most important aspect, that who is presenting it, or who is the one who is commenting on it. When its subject is worthy of pious glorification, when it is respectfully recognized by great personalities, and it is glorified because of the hero of that work. So who is the hero of this work? Is Lord Ram himself. Now it is pointed out that this work is composed by a supremely trustworthy person, and that its subject is worthy of pious glorification. Okay, so both are glorious. The sage, Valmiki, and the chief character, Lord Ram. Lord Ram had descended into the Raghu dynasty in order to protect the world. Therefore, he has accepted the rulership of his kingdom. The word Ramasya indicates that his qualities are most pleasing to all. By the glory of the subject of the Ramayana, it is indicated that this poem should be greatly respected. And Vichitra Padam, in addition to meaning an astonishing arrangement of words. So, this presentation of Ramayana is an extraordinary, astonishing work because it is composed in a very extraordinary way. It is in a poetic form with perfect meter and perfect arrangement of words and intelligence. Only a rishi can compose a poem. So goes the saying, and the Rishi Vālmīki was certainly expert in composing a poem. He composed this literature for the welfare of the world. As noted in the earlier chapter, the sage was of liberal intelligence, Udaradhi. From this verse, it is clear that Ramayana was written while Lord Ram was ruling his kingdom. In order to inform the reader of this, the sage again mentions that he wrote the Ramayana. Chaturvimshati Sahasrani Shlokanam Uktavan Rishi Tata Sarga Shatan Pancha Shatkandani Tathottaram. The Rishi spoke 24,000 shlokas. So details will come. What is the details? How many sections, subsections, chapters, sargas are there? So the first is that Tatha Sarga Shatan Pancha. So this was 24,000 shlokas and 500 chapters. So total there are 500 chapters in Ramayana, in 6 cantos, and the Uttarakhand is 7th canto. So actually there are 6 plus 1 additional, that is the 7th canto. So there are 7 cantos, 6 primarily and 1 supplement, 500 chapters and 24,000 verses. Remember it. This is approximate listing of the number of verse, chapters and cantos. The 7th canto has been separately enlisted here as the Uttarkanda. It is the most important canto, Sarvottara, for it explicitly describes Lord Ram's supremacy and his unique features as one who can award final liberation from material existence. Pritvapi tan mahapragya sabhavishyam sahottaram chintayamaso banavoeta prayunjiyad iti prabhu. Despite composing this poem is 24,000 verses short. Just imagine. The poem is of 24,000 verses. It includes incidents that would happen in the future. Incidents that were included in the Uttarakhand, Canto 7, that greatly and intelligent and capable Valmiki thought, oh, who would memorize this. So the daunting task was that he composed this epic of 24,000 verse. Now he wanted to find the right candidate who could memorize all 24,000 verses. Because previously, it was not like today's edition that you have everything in your laptop or palm top. It was to be memorized. So who would memorize this? This was a question in his sage's mind. Here the sage Valmiki sets the scene to demonstrate that this literature was respectfully recognized by great personalities. The sage was endowed with unbounded knowledge. This poem was composed prior to Lord Rama's Ashwamedh sacrifice. Taschintaya amanasya maharisher bhavitatmana agrinitan tatha pado munivesha Kuśa. Then Kuśa and Lava, dressed as ascetics, touched the feet of the great sage Valmiki, who was thinking thus while meditating on the Supreme Soul Narayan. So Kuśa and Lava were actually princes, though dressed as ascetics. So the word is Raja and Rishi. So they were actually prince, but they were dressed as ascetics, as the rishis. Bhavitatmanaha. Bhavitatmana is referred to sage Valmiki, who was meditating on the Supreme Soul. Indicate that Valmiki offered his obeisances unto the Supreme Soul Narayan in order to obtain favorable disciples for this purpose. So the sage was having this thought that who will be able to do this daunting task of memorizing and presenting. And as soon as he was meditating and praying to the Lord, the super soul in the heart, Lord Narayan, immediately what he saw, that two young princes who were there, they came and paid obeisances to him, touched his feet. That means his praise was immediately heard. It was replied by the Supreme Lord. Valmiki offered his obeisances unto the Supreme Soul Narayan in order to obtain favorable disciples for this purpose. The two boys touched his feet, expecting to be taught the Ramayana. Kushilavo tu dharmagno Raja Putra Yashashvino Bharataro Swara Sampanno Tadarsha Ashrama Vasino. And he saw those famous princes, the brothers Kush and Lava, who knew Dharma, who were endowed with melodious voice, and who were living in the ashram. Kuśa and Lava knew the Dharma of rendering menial service to their spiritual master. As princes, they were filled with prowess. They were famous for practicing various skills. As brothers, their voices were equally melodious, with substantially healthy bodies. And as residents of Śrī Vālmīki's ashram, they were object of his affection. Valmiki considered them fit for receiving the instruction. From this, it is understood that the Ramayana was composed after Lord Ram's coronation. As mentioned in the first verse of this chapter, it is indicated that Kuśa and Lava were born later. Foreseeing this, Lord Ram left Sri Sita at Valmiki's ashram. You all know the story. Satu medhavani no rishtva vedeshu parinishthito Veda upabhramaarthaya tav agrahatya prabhu. And noticing them to be possessed of the intelligence and capacity to remember the Vedas and replete with the study of Vedangas, that independent sage Valmiki accepted them in order to ascertain the purport of the Vedas. So the qualities are mentioned of both the princes. The boys had the intelligence and capacity to remember the 4 Vedas. They had already excelled in the study of all the 4 Vedas. Rig, Raju, Sam, and Arthava. In Treta Yuga, Arthava was also there. Actually, Arthava is said to be now. Previously, there were only 3, Rig, Sam, and Yajur. And before the advent of Kali, Vyasadeva divided it into 4. In other words, they had studied the Vedas, the results of memorizing them. They had also studied the Vedangas. Because they had studied these literatures and had understood their imports, they were capable of elucidating them. The sage Valmiki accepted his disciple for the purpose of elucidating the Vedas through a study of his book Ramayana. Vedo Upabrahmaha, elucidation of the Vedas, is achieved by consolidating the teaching of the Vedas as found in its various branches. There is a note that Srila Prabhupada in Bhagavad Gita 15:15 purport, he says that the Vedas give the right direction to people so that they can properly mold their lives and come back to Godhead, back to Him. This right direction is the process of surrendering unto Him, and it is the elucidation in the Ramayana very well. Kavyam Ramayanam Krishnam Sitasya Charitam Mahat Paulasya Vadanamiti Eva Chakara Charita Vrata. The sage dedicated to the description composed this great poem Ramayana, which is exclusively devoted to comprehensively describing the activities of Sita Devi. So the main character is not just Lord Ram, but also his mother Sita. So it is said that the Ramayana, which is exclusively devoted to comprehensively describing the activities of Sita Devi and the killing of Ravana. Charita Vrataha indicates that Valmiki was filled with abundant knowledge due to his dedication to presenting this Ramayana. Kavyam indicates that it is the product of poet, Kavi, whose very activity is one of description. Specifically, this poet is dedicated to describing a person who is extraordinary, Lokattara. A poem is meant to be spotless combination of words and contents decorated with special pleasing attributes. Although the Ramayana is an elucidation of the Vedas, because it communicates like a beloved wife, it is referred to as a poem, Kavya. Indeed, there are 3 kinds of composition. Those that communicate like a master, those that communicate like a well-wishing friend, and those that communicate like a beloved wife. The Vedas communicate like a master. Okay. The histories communicate like a well-wishing friend, and the poems communicate like a beloved wife. So that is the special characteristic of the sage Valmiki's composition. It is so personal and so intimate. Comparison is done with the beloved wife. And the Ramayana is not just a poem, it is Kavyam Mahat, a great poem. Its greatness lies in it being a first-class poem due to its suggestive nature. From the technical point of view also, it is a Mahakavya. Mahakavya. Like we were discussing today, the Maharas. Which day is Maharas? Others are Ras. But there is only one Maharas that Krishna performs. What is the day of Maharas? Who has heard properly? Pranab?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Is it Sharad Purnima?
Yes, it is Sharad Purnima. All other days Krishna performs Ras. But the Maharas is only once. That is Sharad Purnima. So it is Kavyam Mahat. or it is Mahakavya, for it contains all the characteristics of such a poem as defined by Dandi. The very word Ramayana here indicates that one should not hesitate to discuss this poem on the strength of the prohibition to discuss of poems. This poem is about Ram, who according to the sages is the most pleasing of all and endowed with all auspicious qualities. This poem is to be discussed for Brahma, Udbhata, and Rudrata. Brahma is Lord Brahma, Rudra is Shiva, Udbhata. So Brahma, Udbhata, and Rudrata are authorities in Sanskrit poetics. Don't know about that. The scripture prohibition pertains to materialistic poems. Long, very long poem. Oh. पाठ्ये गेये च मधुरम प्रमाणे स्त्रीभिरन्वितम् जतिभिः सप्तभिर्बद्धम् तत्त्रिलाया समान्वितम् ऋषे शृङ्गाकरुण्या हास्य वीर भयानका रौद्रादिभिश्च संयुक्तम् काव्यमेतत् अगायतम्. The two boys, Lava and Kuśa, sang this poem that is sweet to recite and sing, characterized by three musical measures, composed in 7 jatis, capable of being sung with a veena, another string musical instrument with rhythmic tempo and filled with the rasas, such as conjugal love, compassion, comedy, chivalry, red, and bhashtans. So not ordinary recitation, very, very expert recitation, along with the musical instruments. They sang as they had been instructed. The word is Pathayam. Pathayam means sweet to recite, pertains strictly to pronunciation as noted by Bharata Muni. Gayam, sweet to sing. Sweet to recite, sweet to sing. The Ramayana was sweet to hear. Ordinarily, some poems are sweet to recite, but not sweet to sing, while others are sweet to sing, but not sweet to recite. This poem, Śrī Ramayana, however, is sweet in both ways. The Ramayana describes events in various rasas. The portion describing events after the wedding of Sita and Ram until Ravan kidnaps her reveal the rasas of conjugal love in the status of union. The events afterwards reveals the same in the state of separation. Tautu Gandharva Tattva Gnao Murchana Sthana Kovido Bharataro Swar Sampanno Gandharva Ivarupino. Kuśa and Lava were well versed in the teachings of Vedic musicology. New term. Musicology. And not ordinary musicology, Vedic musicology. Expert in playing musical instruments and in articulation, those brothers endowed with a melodious voice and were handsome like Gandharvas. Śrī Vālmīki now states that Kuśa and Lava were capable of singing the Ramayana. Gandharva refers to the scriptures that describe singing. So the Gandharvas are those celestial beings who are very expert both in singing and dancing. So Gandharva refers to the scriptures that describe singing. They know the imports of the scriptures. Murchana indicates that they know how to play the veena and other musical instruments. Sthana refers to the 3 octaves articulated in the 3 places of articulation. The chest, the throat, and the palate, as noted by Chandilya. The boys were well versed in such knowledge, being knowledgeable of the scriptures on music, knowledge on how to play musical instruments such as veena, and expertise on how to articulate on the basis of such scriptures knowledge. Because they were brothers with melodious voices, their voices were at pace with each other, and therefore they were attractive to the ears. Swara Sampanna also indicate that they were well built, they were handsome, like Gandharva, disguised as human beings. So this description is given about what was the distinguished characteristics of Lava and Kuśa and why they were chosen. Roop Lakshana Sampanno Madhura Swara Bhashino Bimbat Ivo Titam Bimbat Ivo Tito Brahm Bimbo Rama Deha Tatatparo. They knew the characteristics of dramatic performance and spoke in sweet tunes. Born from Lord Rama's body, they were like him just as reflection resembled their originals. The Roop Lakshan Sampanna means knowing the characteristics of dramatic performance. In accordance with one of the meaning of the word Roop, it signifies that they knew the method of dramatically enacting. So they were having all training. They were very well versed in all the minute details, how to be able to present it. The root cause of all such qualities in them is that they were Lord Ramachandra's son. They were just like his Pratibimbas, reflection or replicas. I will stop here. So this chapter is long. We'll see if we can finish it tomorrow. Not very long, 37 verses are there. We have completed 11 today. Hare Krishna. I'll stop here. I'm very tired. I'll take sleep. Very important day today. I clarified on many aspects in the morning class. And if you were able to hear, good. If you have not been able to, find time. We have many misconceptions about Ras Leela. Some of it were made more clearer, so you can hear that. And keep yourself absorbed in hearing, reading, sharing, and repeating. Hare Krishna. Anyone wants to contribute, speak? Please go ahead. Yes, Madam Surpro.
Hare Krishna, Baji.
Hare
Baji,
Krishna.
Uttarakhand also was composed by this.
Valmiki. It is said that it is by Valmiki ji only.
Okay.
It is a supplement. So the 6 are the main, and the 7th one is the
Supplement.
part which is mentioned here.
Thank you.
We are not going anywhere else. We are just progressing on the original script which is given. That's all. Okay. Hare Krishna. You are okay? Gaurangi? Okay, I'll end here. Really tired. Hare Krishna. Śrī Vālmīki Rāmāyaṇa ki jai. Śrīla Prabhupada ki jai. Sai God Premanandi.